Thank you. Oh, can you hear me okay, ladies? Okay, good. Well, ladies, my name is Pam Lyons. It's such a privilege and a delight to be with you here tonight. We've been in the Valley for, 34 years. Been married for 28 of them. We have two beautiful daughters, one of whom is here tonight. Hello. I know. It's so fun to embarrass your kids, isn't it? I just love that. We've been members here at Illuminate for about 4 or 5 years. We absolutely love our church family. What you need to know about me is I'm a Nebraska girl at heart. I grew up in the big city of Omaha. Woo! But I'm a small town Nebraska girl. Just go Big Red, yes! Love you, yes. I'm an introvert, I'm an accounting geek. I love all things numbers. It's my happy place. If I didn't have to talk to anybody all day long, that would be fantastic. And I have a very dry, as you've probably seen, sarcastic sense of humor, and some of you are gonna love it, and some of you are gonna hate it, and so I apologize profusely in advance if you hate it. So I'm sorry in advance, but the main thing I want you to know is that I am in love with Jesus. I am in love with him. I'm just in love with him. Well, tonight I was hoping that you would take a little journey with me. You're probably not going to want to go on it, but I was back at my gyno appointment. Oh, yeah. We're starting right off. Sorry, boys. I was in the normal compromising position. We all get in there, you know. And my gyno is just as goofy as I am, and she's, doing her thing. She's like, your fibroid is gigantic. And I'm like, yeah, we know this already. We already did an ultrasound like in 2018. It was gigantic back then. And she's like, yeah, but it's just big. We should just watch it. And I said, well, instead of watching it, why don't we just go ahead and do an ultrasound? And so she said, okay, let's go ahead and do an ultrasound, and if it's concerning, then we'll take care of it. And so the ultrasound comes back, and the technical term was gigantic fibroid. I'm not kidding. I can bring you the report. It's fantastic. It was the size of a grapefruit, and unfortunately had some suspicious spots in it. And so in October, I was referred to another doctor, which was a gynecologist, oncologist, and she ordered a pelvic MRI. And the reports came back, I kid you not, with a... Thank you. Gross. I know, I'm sorry. It hadn't significantly changed in the last 5 years, and I just started menopause, so I said, what can we do? And she said, well, we can go ahead and do surgery. Well, no, I'm a big baby, I'm not doing that. I said, how about we kick the can down the road and just see what it looks like in 6 months? She's like, okay, we'll do that. She said, but if you have any left lower quadrant pain, there's some thickening in your colon. I want you to go to the emergency room right away. And I'm like, okay. I love to be oblivious to things. It's my favorite. So Thanksgiving happened. We were having a lot of fun. We had family in town. Christmas came. We were just having the best time in the whole world. And I was just excited to start a new year. 2023, I'm just a goofy kind of girl that gets excited about a new year. I get a new planner. I sketch goals. I go back over my 2022 calendar and see what things happened, what good things happened, what bad things happened, cross things off if I didn't like it, And for 2023, I was just excited because 2022 had kind of kicked us in a lot of different ways. And so I kept telling God, I'm like, 2023 is our year. Do you think he listened? It's like our kids were grown and gone, work had smoothed out, everyone felt healthy, except for the giant fibroid thing. And it was time for Mom to just work part-time, go out to lunch with my friends, do the things that mattered to me, purposeful things that I really enjoy, volunteer and speak and write, things that I just love to do. Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen because like clockwork, on New Year's Eve of 2022, I started having left quadrant pain a lot. And so I went to the urgent care, And the doctor was really great with me. He started taking, all kinds of information, doing his whole assessment and everything. He said, we should do a CAT scan with contrast. So I'm like, okay, that sounds like a fun thing to do on New Year's Eve. That'd be awesome. Like, can I have champagne later? Yes, okay, well then, fine. So anyway, we do the CAT scan, and my husband is there. And of course, I deal with everything with humor, if you haven't noticed already. And so the doctor comes back, and he takes us into his office. And he said, the good news is that the fibroid is just gigantic, a large mass. He said, doesn't look like there's anything in it. It's not a leiomyosarcoma. It's not going to be like a fast-growing tumor, none of those kind of things. And so I start my stand-up routine immediately because my sister and I had already been talking about naming the fibroid and buying baby clothes for it and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm talking about what we're gonna do with this thing and how great it's gonna be and when I give birth to it and all this kind of funny stuff. And I'm an old lady and I'm gonna give birth to this. Anyway, it was stupid. And so the guy was just so gracious to me. He lets me do my whole stand-up stint. He just lets me go on and on. And my husband's just looking at me like, oh, geez, this is crazy. And so then he continues, he just grabs my arm, he goes, but Pam, I have some bad news for you. And I'm like, what? He's like, the thickening in your colon is a stage 4 colorectal cancer. And it's already metastasized significantly to your liver and to your lung and to a lymph node, and you need to get treatment right away. And so I grabbed his arm and I said, that's not funny. That doesn't even fit with my stand-up routine. Like, how am I going to incorporate that? And he was so gracious with me. I'm still in disbelief, just in disbelief over the whole thing. I thought that was the least of my worries, this colorectal thing. My husband was just shocked. He just sat there reeling. And as soon as I got done with doing my whole stand-up thing, I just felt anger. I know the stages of grief are denial and anger, but I've been doing this Christian thing with my Lord for 25 years. So immediately, I'm mad. This is not what I wanted for 2023. I called out to God. I was like, really? Did you not heareth that 2023 was going to be my yeareth? And I was just upset. I probably was in disbelief too. I said, seriously, God, have you seen my life the last 55 years? It has not been super peaches and cream all the time. And then, ladies, I could give you a long list of things that you would not believe that has happened to me and to our family and different things that have happened. But I don't want to get into some comparison thing. Let's just say my life has not been full of rainbows and unicorns. I mean, sure, there's been super high highs too, but it's been hard. It's been difficult. It's been confusing, and this last diagnosis was just a dagger. Just a dagger to my heart. I don't want to do this. I'm not strong enough, God. I can't do this. I don't even have the strength to even talk about it, without making a big joke about it. And so I just kept crying out, God, I don't understand. The start of this year, I wanted everything to be smooth. But there was a lot of fear in my life. I presented as a woman who was full of anxiety. And there's been times when I haven't been able to drive or leave the house or make it out of the driveway because I've just been tormented by anxiety from different things that have happened in my life. And I remember telling Heather Abram that with all this cancer stuff, I would rather die than go through and have a port placed, to go in and have liver biopsy, to be some kind of guinea rat. I don't want to do it. And she said, Pam, you're going to be surprised what you can do. And I have been surprised. And not over the things that he's done for me, like love me and give me incredible peace, but that he's listened to all of my, I'm so upset. I hate this. I don't want to do this. And God's been, it's okay. It's all right. I got you. I got you. I'm like, but it's hard. He's like, I know. But you're going to get through it. We're going to get through it together. I've come to him with all of it, and it's only strengthened our relationship. I never thought it could. I never thought it would strengthen our relationship. I thought he'd be mad at me, bringing all of my fears, all of my disappointments, all of my anger. It's just strengthened who I am in Christ because he sees exactly what's going on in my heart. And I've just been vulnerable with it. There's no hiding. He said it's okay. You can come all mad. I grew up Lutheran. I didn't know I could do that. Nothing against Lutherans. Don't go crazy. Sorry. Sorry, Lisa. But speaking of, I just had to surrender all of it to him and crawl right up into his lap. Speaking of surrender, there was one woman in the Old Testament that understands surrender very well. Her name was Hagar. She's an Old Testament woman. You know Hagar? Yeah. Lived over 4,000 years ago. Many commentaries call her the anonymous woman, a woman forced to an unknown place with an unknown people to an unknown life. Hagar was an Egyptian maidservant in Pharaoh's court, which doesn't sound very appealing, but actually her position was one of great honor. She would have been walking in palaces, wearing fine clothes, eating choice food. She would have been at the center of political power. She would have known everything that was going on. And her day would have been filled with serving Pharaoh and being in the richest city in the world. But Hagar, like everybody else, she had an Egyptian belief system. She would have worshiped over 100 different gods. And you probably heard it before, but Hagar's life would have been all set, but part of a bargain. Because of part of a bargain, she was forced to leave Egypt with Abram and Sarai. In Genesis 12, I'll summarize Abram and Sarai leave Canaan and arrive in Egypt. Outside the city, Abram says to Sarah, his wife, "You are a beautiful woman." Well, thank you. "If anyone asks you, tell them you're my sister." "Oh, well, no, thank you." So nothing bad happens to me. And she was his half-sister, so it wasn't a complete lie, but so you understand, in those days in Egypt, if an outsider came and you liked his wife, you just kill him and take the woman. Okay, this fly's got to go. Is it gone? Is it on my nose? Okay. All right. So it happens just like Abram predicted. The Egyptians find Sarah attractive. She's a beautiful woman. They ask if she is taken. She lies, indicating Abram is her brother. And Pharaoh takes Sarai into his house in exchange for maidservants and menservants and livestock. As documented in Genesis 12:16, then Pharaoh gave Abram many gifts because of her: sheep, goats, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. How would you like to be in that dowry? Fortunately, Abraham's plan unravels quickly. Pharaoh finds out that Sarai is Abram's wife and kicks them out of Egypt. He says, "Just take the dowry I gave you. Just go. Just get out." And guess who is among the dowry? Hagar. I feel for her. Hagar, the maidservant. Through circumstances she had no control over, she must leave Egypt, go with people she didn't know, spoke a different language, and had a different lifestyle. Catch this. Hagar is out in the desert with Abram and Sarah for 10 years. During this time, God has promised the couple a child, even though they are 80 and 90 years old. And it hasn't happened yet, so Sarai takes matters into her own hands. Genesis 16, 1-4 says, Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children. She had an Egyptian maid whose name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abraham, Now behold, the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Please go into my maid. Perhaps I will obtain children through her. And Abraham listened to the voice of Sarai. And after Abraham had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Abraham's wife Sarah took Hagar the Egyptian, her maid, and gave it to her husband. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her sight. So Hagar gets a little bit of an attitude, of superiority. Sarai retaliates, starts treating Hagar badly. If you go down to 16:7, it says, Now the angel of the Lord found Hagar by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. Basically, she's fleeing Egypt. She's running away. She's done. Hagar, says the angel of the Lord, Sarah's maid, where have you come from? Where are you going? She says, I'm fleeing from the presence of my mistress, Sarai. Then the angel of the Lord said to her, Return to your mistress and submit yourself to her authority. And you know what Hagar says? She says, Are you serious, God? Go back and submit to Sarai. I was taken from my home 10 years ago because of a lie. Abraham lied about Sarah being his wife, and I had to leave my family, friends, palace, position, go live in tents, wander around the desert. I had to learn a new language. They gave me a new name. I have been a good maidservant. Because of that, Sarah made me lay down with her husband so she could have a child. And now that I'm pregnant, I get it. I got a little puffed up, but she started treating me bad. Abraham, my protection, didn't intervene. Therefore, I'm taking matters into my own hands. I'm going back to Egypt. God, I'm done. I'm done. These past 10 years have been an epic failure, and I'm going back home. Do you have that in your Bible? I know that's not in my Bible. I just wrote that part in because that's what Pam Lyons' translation would say. All that about, are you serious, God? Go back and submit to Sarah. Not in the Bible. Pam Lyons' translation. But I wish that's what she said. Instead, she's way more spiritual than me. Actually, the next verse, she says, after she's told to submit, return, and her son will be named God Hears, then she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her. You are a God who sees. El Rahi. E-L space R-O-I. El Rahi, you are a God who sees. She's the first person to name God. In Egypt, she had spent so many years worshiping over 100 Egyptian gods, pouring out offerings to them. Each of them had a name, but she found out this day who God really was and that he saw her, and he had his eye upon her. Isn't that precious? I love that. It's much better than what I wrote. Are you serious? I say to God, but really 10 years for her finally to understand. And I hear God to say, would you rather she had stayed in Egypt, worshiping gods of stone and wood, never having come to the truth? Well, no. Her circumstances seem so unfair. However, all this happened so that at the right time, God's time, the angel of the Lord could talk to her and tell her that he sees her just like he sees you, just like he sees me. Even in all my brokenness, even in all my pain and anger, annoyance, it's okay. He sees you. He knows you. It's not a surprise to him. These words hit me to the core. Submit to the plans I have for you. Go back. Even if Sarah's treatment is unjust, return to Sarai. There's nothing for you in Egypt. He doesn't give her a reason to return. Only return, submit. There's a lot I can learn from her. Just to let go. Let go of this list of injustices that I have all built up in my mind about things that have happened to me that were unfair. God just says, go back to where I placed you. Which is not a blanket endorsement for you to return or submit to an abusive husband, a father, fill in the blank. Instead, that's a situation that Lisa Robbins can help you with, but that's not what I'm saying. I just imagine Hagar sitting by the spring, her eyes still blinded by the angel, her head and heart reeling from the news, wondering what to do. She had a choice. She could walk towards Temporal Easy Street, go back to Egypt, go back to the palace, her life set, or she could go back to the hard. Basically, God whispered the same thing to me in January at the start of my treatment, because I said, I can't do it. He said, submit, don't run away. I said, but I really want to. It's too hard. God says, I don't owe you an explanation, but I see you. I hear you. I'm with you. It's okay. We're going to be okay. So here I am trying to surrender and walk this road with him and fix my eyes completely on him. 2023 was supposed to be my year. And it really has been. Do you know how hard that is to say? That just sticks in my mouth. I don't like that at all. He's filled me with such peace beyond understanding. During my liver biopsy, I was terrorized. But my terror became calm as soon as they wheeled me in for the liver biopsy. I made it through. And during the port placement, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have something placed in my body, but God's presence was tangible in a way I've never known. These last few months, he's been with me still, seeing me, reaching into my brokenness in the most unexpected and tender ways, because I've been open with my pain with him. And going through all of this, I just feel the closeness of Christ. 2023 was supposed to be my year. It still is. Just not in the way I expected. I love you.